fire the Mayo Man with this one simple trick. There are multiple ways to buy stock and take delivery of stock. From retail's perspective, that typically means just logging onto your brokerage account and buying however many shares of whatever stock you want to buy. The problem with that is that it opens the door to potential shenanigans from a market maker. Internalization, dark pooling, all the other nonsense, just completely fire it, completely forget it with this one trick. The trick is using options to take delivery of stock. Here's how this would work. This is a simple, easy way for retail to use options to their advantage and, more importantly, beat the shorts at their own game. Using options to take delivery of GME shares essentially fires a certain Chicago-based market maker. Here's how this would work. The last business day of every week, option contracts will expire. If you have bought a call, you have the option, no pun intended, to buy whatever the underlying security is, suppose GME, at whatever the price is. The catch and the differentiation is that when you actually take delivery of the option, or said technically when you exercise the option, the option market maker, who might be different than the actual stock market maker, has to deliver those shares on a very different time frame. Particularly, they have to deliver it within T+2. So in other words, when you buy that contract, if the option market maker hasn't already bought the underlying amount of shares, they will go into the market and they will essentially buy the underlying amount of shares just to make sure they have those shares to deliver should the option close in the money and you choose to exercise the contract. Friday is, let's say, the last business day of the week. On Thursday, you go and you buy a call option on GME for $1. So what you have done is you have bought the right, but not the obligation to take delivery of 100 shares of GME for $1. Why 100 shares? Because all option contracts are for 100 shares. Now, if GME is trading at $40, you're probably paying about $3,900 for that. And the reason is that you can buy it in the open market for $40. So to entice someone to sell you a share of GME for $1, you got to make it worth their while. But functionally, from your perspective, if you wanted to buy 100 shares of GME, you could either pay, let's say, roughly, and these are rough numbers, assuming GME is at $40 after the split, you could either pay $4,000 to your broker and have that trade potentially be routed through a some shenanigan, or through a market maker you might wish to, through a stock market maker who you might otherwise wish to avoid. Or what you can do is you can buy a $1 call on GME. Both will cost functionally about the same. So $4,000 is what you'll be debited if you want to buy that shares outright, or $3,900 in this hypothetical example. It'll be a little bit more, but work with me, is what you'll be debited to buy the call option. Now, when business closes on Friday, what will happen is that because let's say GME is at 40 and you've bought the right to buy GME at $1, your broker will say, okay, well, listen, you're exercising your right to buy 100 shares of GME at $1, so we're going to debit your account $100 because $1 times 100 shares, which you have the right to buy GME at, will come to $100. So right there, $3,900 plus 100 takes you to $4,000, which is the exact same functionally. It won't be, but just rough numbers, about the amount of cost it would have been to buy the shares on the open market. The cool thing is this: when you enter into that option contract, the option maker, which again might be different than the stock market maker, will have to go in, they will have to go and buy on the open market roughly about 100 shares of GME. There's a technical reason behind that. We'll leave that aside for the time being. But the point is that sometime after you go to bed on Friday and before you wake up on Monday, you will find 100 new shares of GME in your account that you can DRS, that you can sit on, that you can sell covered calls on, you can do whatever you want to your heart's content. But the key thing is this, Josh: you have completely cut out, you have completely fired, and you have completely chosen to not do business with those criminals in Chicago. I don't want to name any names, but I think we all know who we're talking about.
This is basically essentially doing the exact same thing that Kenny does, or the unknown market maker. Basically, they buy a bunch of puts, drives the price down. That forces the market makers to go in and delta hedge, which drives the stock down. If
Selling shares.
Yeah, obviously. But by selling the stock down, drives the price of the stock down. And that is an essential way where you can have someone else do the dirty work for you. But what happens if we reverse this and do it as retail ourselves? Everyone knows that a million ants is a lot stronger than one massive fly, and we can take control of the entire option chain under that circumstance. And then, as Justin was just saying, this drives delta hedging through the market maker, and they have to go buy stock. But what happens if they don't buy all the stock? That leads to instability and could potentially lead to a out of control running that in the future, where they have to buy back the hedge that they didn't properly hedge in the past, which is kind of where we start to see some very spicy movements.
Yeah, and again, the best part is that they have T+2 days to do it. None of this bullshit deferral thing. Anyways, the bottom line is this: if you're going to buy shares of GME in tranches of $100, you have an option, no pun intended.
100.
100 shares, you have an option, no pun intended, to completely fire a certain Chicago-based market maker if you want to completely avoid doing business with them. And once you take delivery of the shares, they're theirs. They are your shares to do with as you please. If you want to leave them an account, DRS, whatever, knock your socks off. They're there for that. But the key thing is that you have the ability to actually have your purchase print. Or you actually have, if you.
I think people get it.
Okay, yeah, so let your purchase be counted on the tape. Anyways, there's some nuance on this. Be careful with options, but the bottom line is this. Buying 0 DTEs at a $1 strike price with very low theta, very high delta, with the assumption that you're going to take delivery of the shares. It's not a bet on the price of GME going up. Rather, it's saying, listen, I want to take delivery, and I'm willing to prepay all but $1 of whatever the price is at in order to secure this, which engages the option market maker to work on your behalf.